Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on which part of the world you are. I'm here in Sydney, Australia, and it's a really beautiful day today. So welcome to the channel, and I hope you guys are doing great. Now, today we'll be talking about the crisis in the Middle East, the war between Israel and Hamas. Now, although it is a crisis in the Middle East, but its consequences are felt all over the world. We have seen many protests taking place all over the world, and in many cases, these protests turned violent and ugly. Now, some people may argue that in a democratic country, this is the rights of every citizen to express their opinion. And the organizers of these protests have repeatedly said that this is to show solidarity, right, against the invasion of Israel into the Gaza Strip. Now, it may sound like a good cause. It may sound like that these people are coming from good intentions, but there are evidence that do suggest otherwise. Okay. Now, there were chants, there were clashes with people, with the police. There were chants like "Gas the Jews" and "River to the Sea." And there were provocative protests like in Sydney, like "Gas the Jews," that was in Opera House. And then just a couple of days ago, a group of people went into predominantly the Jewish community, okay, to show solidarity with the Palestinians. And they were, they were flying the black flag of, like in Arabic, the black flag, I believe that it was the flag of ISIS. So there were tensions, they were rising like in a massive scale. There were anti-Semitism cases being reported all over the world, like compared to 100 times, 200 times, 300, 400, even in some cases it was, I believe, 500-600 times more cases of anti-Semitism being reported compared to like periods before. And of course, you saw the drama, the political drama that unfolded after the comments of the Home Secretary of the UK, Suella Braverman. She wanted to ban the Armistice Day protests, like about 300,000 people took to the streets of London. And she, prior to this protest taking place, she mentioned that these are hate march. Now, she has been relieved of her job ever since, but there were supports came along after she was fired. Now, although some people may say that, oh, look, these protests are of good intentions, but there are evidence that does indicate that this might be otherwise. Okay, now let me give you a couple of examples. Right now, as I speak, Pakistan is deporting about 170,000 Afghan refugees, illegal migrants. Like, they don't have any documents. So Pakistan is like, they're pushing forth about 170,000 refugees from Pakistan back to Afghanistan. But all over the world, there is not a single word being spoken about it. Not a single word. Now, going back to like, not very distant, like recent history, right? Bashar al-Assad, just a couple of days ago, like I believe 52 countries or 50, like something along, the Arab League and many other Muslim nations, they formed a coalition to condemn Israel after, like, there were reports that they are about to invade into the deep of the Gaza Strip. And just recently, just before making this video, there were videos published by IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. I have seen a couple of videos where Of course, that these details are not fully confirmed as of now, but there are reports that under the hospital, in one of the hospitals, there are, like the baby feeder, they found chairs, they found improvised like ventilation, they found ropes right at the bottom of the chair. That means that the hostages were kept in that facility right under the hospital. The hostages were kept in that facility, and right before the troops went in, they fled. And they left their ammunition like AK-47, grenades, suicide vests, and all those things, the equipments, the arms that Israeli Defense Force doesn't use themselves. Now, obviously, this is not fully verified yet, but there are evidence that looks pretty compelling that these hospitals have been used as terrorist infrastructure right underground, about 20-30 feet deeper under the surface. There are terrorist infrastructures which Israel have been talking about for a long time. Now, having said all that, just recently, right, the coalition, the condemnation of the Muslim countries who formed a coalition to condemn Israel, there was this leader, Bashar al-Assad from Syria. Now, there are many violations against him raised during the Syrian civil war. He gassed children. Now, out of what 11,000 people have been killed so far in Gaza, and that is the number proposed by the Hamas administration, the Ministry of Health from Gaza. Again, it's all run by the Hamas. So, according to them, the 11,000 figure that they put forth, according to them, the number was 11,000, and out of which, of course, was what 50%, like around 400,000, like 4,000 were children. Now, these protests, they claim that these are to show solidarity to the suffering humanity of Palestine. But talking about Bashar al-Assad, he killed about like in Wikipedia, like this information that I'm giving you, this is from Wikipedia, about 200,000 civilians were killed, and out of which 25,000 were children, and many of these children were gassed. 200,000, more than 200,000 children, like civilians, were killed, and out of those more than 200,000 civilians that were killed, 25,000 were children. So where were the Muslim world then? How many protests have you seen happening all around the world? Well, I haven't seen a single one. And these protests that we are talking about, there were chants, "Gas the Jews." On 7th of October, one of the worst massacres of present-day history, of modern history, that Israel suffered on that Black Saturday. Like I made a video just a couple of days ago. Again, there were testimonies, there are eyewitness, like there are 40 minutes video, like 45 minutes video being presented to the journalists from all over the world. They confirmed some of the details. People were stabbed in their eyes, that their eyes were gouged out as they were having breakfast. Babies beheaded. Mothers, like the pregnant women who were stabbed into the womb to cut the baby out of the womb. People are burned alive. Like in one case, there are instances like 2 spines they found tied together. One was of the younger age and the other spine was of the older age. Now imagine this was the last thing, the screams of your son or daughter, of your father, of your brother. That was the last thing that you happened to hear just before you die. Entire family are burned alive. These are the atrocities that has been committed by these people. And On that very day, 7th of October, the Black Saturday, in Sydney, Australia, gassed the Jews. This was the peaceful protest. On Armistice Day in UK, 300,000 people marched. 300,000. In a very provocative gesture. And there were anti-Semitism cases all over the world. In a horrific level, the rise in case are at an alarming rate. And when Bashar al-Assad slaughtered the same guy, right? The same people that signed, like that joined to form the coalition to condemn Israel, this member Bashar al-Assad, he slaughtered at least, again, this is recorded. It's not just something that has been just a, like a throwaway line or something. It's nothing like that. This is recorded. About 25,000 children out of 200,000 civilians that were massacred by Bashar al-Assad himself. In Yemen, Saudi Arabia, the bastion of human rights. Okay, Saudi Arabia. They slaughtered about 500,000 people. They're like the Houthi rebels, whatever it is. 500,000 civilians are killed, and out of those 500,000 civilians, it says 70% are children. 260,000 children. In Gaza, again, these are the reports by Hamas itself. 4,000 children, and we have seen protests all over the world, rise in anti-Semitism to an alarming rate. And when Saudi Arabia slaughtered 500,000 people, out of which like 70% were children, not a single protest have taken place. One more example. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called Black September. I would like you to Google this term, Black September. Now, people are showing solidarity with Palestinians. You know who killed Palestinians the most? A person from Pakistan, Ziaul Haq. After the 6th-day war, right? After the 6th-day war, 1967, a group of Palestinians tried to overthrow the Jordanian king. A group of people like Palestinian terrorists, rebels, they tried to overthrow the Jordanian king who actually gave them refuge. So when he faced like these kind of guerrilla activities happening in Jordan, he asked for help, and a guy from Pakistan went into Jordan to help him. Like, he joined the Jordanian forces, and they massacred about 25,000 Palestinians. Again, not a single word of condemnation, nothing whatsoever. And you have seen how the left has tried to equate that, oh look, these people have conducted terrorism. First of all, they don't want to acknowledge that this is terrorism. And even if the people who do acknowledge that this was terrorism, like by the Hamas on 7th of October, they want to equate that, oh look, this is the same thing that Israel is doing. They wanted to draw moral equivalence between the two. And in some cases, like when that 40-minute video, like some of the details of 7th of October, when people like the military general, like the prime minister, they were telling people that, look, babies were beheaded. The journalist went to confirm whether this was actually a propaganda to make people angry all around the world that this has not happened, like the babies were not beheaded. I think it was first Joe Biden who said that sheer evil. I have been doing this for a long time. Again, you can Google it. This was like on the 8th of October, I believe. As soon as this happened, on the 8th of October, Joe Biden made this statement. That I have been doing it for a long time and I've never seen this kind of sheer evil or something along those lines. And journalists I believe it was BBC. They wanted confirmation that have you seen the pictures? And I believe the White House had to withdraw from that statement because of the inquiry by the journalists. And of course, you have seen the pictures from Benjamin Netanyahu later on, like the babies being beheaded, pregnant women being, sliced into their womb to get the baby out, burn people alive, and all those things. So these massacre, some of them said, look, Islam does not teach these things. Some of these people went ahead to say that, oh look, Islam does not preach these things. This is not Islam. Again, hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of the Muslim world. So what Islam does teach. Let me read you a passages, chapter 5, Quran chapter 5, verse 53. It's called corruption in the land. What is the punishment for causing corruption in the land? Let me read it for you. 8 people of the Ukil tribe came to the messenger of Allah and gave him the pledge to follow Islam. Al-Madinah climate did not suit them, and they became sick and complained to Allah's messenger. So he said, go with our shepherd to be treated by the milk and urine of his camels. So they went as directed, and after they drank from the camel's milk and urine, they became healthy. And they killed the shepherd and drove away all the camels. The news reached the prophet, and he sent men in their pursuit, the pursuit of the 8 people from the Ukil tribe. And they were captured. In other words, they caused corruption in the land. Now here is the interesting thing, the punishment thing. He then ordered that their hands and feet be cut off. The people who killed the shepherd. This was the punishment ordained by the Prophet himself. Holy Quran chapter 5 verse 53. That their hands and feet be cut off, and it was done, and their eyes were branded with heated pitches of iron. Eyes were branded with heated pitches of iron. They were put in the sun until they died. And in some earlier version, I read that when they asked for water, no water was given to them. Now, I just checked the Tafsir Ibn Kathir right before making this video. That part, that they were not provided with water, as they were left in the scorching sun, as they were screaming out of thirst, right before they were brutally massacred, brutally murdered, right before they died, when they were screaming for water, no water was given to them. Now that part is missing right now. Anyway, so these are the teachings by the Prophet himself. And people justified that, look, this has nothing to do with Islam. Islam does not teach these kind of things, like the things that we have seen on the 7th of October. And in some cases, I've seen that the placards by these so-called peaceful protesters, the trees, that these placards mention about the trees and the rocks. Trees and the rocks. That's why you need the trees and the rocks. These are marches, pro-Palestinian marches. So what is the context of the trees and the rocks? Well, there is a hadith. It says, the hour will not be established until Muslims fight the Jews, and a tree behind a Jew will be hiding, will say, oh Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. This is the context of the trees and the rocks. And this was in the placard of those people who, the peaceful protesters who were showing solidarity in support of Palestine. 4,000 children died. Again, the numbers are from the Ministry of Health, Gaza Ministry of Health, run by the Hamas. And protests happening all over the world, rising anti-Semitism at an alarming rate, and absolutely no protest whatsoever when Pakistan deports 170,000 Muslims Pakistan is deporting to Afghanistan, where hundreds of thousands, like in the case of Bashar al-Assad, more than 200,000. In Yemeni war, more than 500,000. In Black September, 25,000. Again, 1967, you can understand the discrepancy that may occur, like 25,000 being too conservative as a figure, that these amount of people have definitely been slaughtered. Not a single word of condemnation whatsoever from anywhere. From anywhere. 52 countries, like what, not 52, I believe 57 countries joining, forming coalition to condemn Israel. Israel being called an oppressor. They are the colonizer, right? The Six-Day War, the 1967 war, when Israel won this war, they occupied West Bank. They occupied Mount Sinai, Golan Heights, Gaza, which was handed back to Egypt, I believe it was 2005. So within this context, because they are occupying Gaza, they are occupying Golan Heights, Mount Sinai, Israel is now an occupier. Israel is now a colonizer. How much land do they control? Very tiny piece of land, about 20 million people. And how many billion Muslims live on planet Earth? With how many countries? 57 countries, 2 billion people. 57 countries, 2 billion people, and Israel is an apartheid. Israel is the oppressor. And what happened to the minorities of these 57 countries? Minorities. In Gaza, Jews, 0. Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, how many Jews? 0. Almost 0. Well, probably there are 10, 15 left. All over the Muslim world, all over, like 57 countries I'm talking about, number of Jews, close to 0. And in Israel alone, there are 1.7 million Muslims. And Israel is the oppressor who is providing food, water, and shelter to its own enemy, the Gazan people. Israel provides food, water, and electricity. Israel supports them, like the these peacenik people, like the people who, I believe the kibbutz that are hardest hit, the kibbutz that are massacred. These are the people, like in some cases, they used to run hospitals to treat the children of Gaza, the Gazan civilians. They are the one massacred by the people, the Hamas terrorists from Gaza on 7th of October. And out of 57 nations, out of all of these things, Israel is now apartheid. Israel is the oppressor, and the paragon of human rights is obviously the Muslims. This is the response that you get from all over the world, from all throughout, all the nations, the Muslim nations, all across the board. This is the same view. Not a single country have ever bothered to mention these facts. They all propagate, they're all telling you the exact same thing. Israel is an apartheid, Israel is the oppressor. So it needs to be wiped out of the map. Whether it comes to their own human rights violations, not a single condemnation whatsoever. So I think it is very fair to say that hypocrisy, the level of hypocrisy that Muslim world has once again shown to the rest of the people, is undeniable, is beyond imagination. I am convinced that these marches, these are not peaceful protests, these are not in solidarity to show, these are not to show solidarity with the people of Gaza. This is all about Jew hatred. 20 million people living a tiny piece of land, They want to embark on a second Holocaust. This is the reason behind all these marches. In no other way these marches can be justified in light of the evidence. Thank you for listening, and I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.